Alright, now let's get down to business. Couple of comments here before I start on the entrance design of this ProMaxx head. It's got some pluses and one little minus, but the minus I don't think is a big problem, as with most heads. When you try to turn them into a 200 raised runner, you have to put epoxy on the bottom of the floors. From my discussion with one of the owners of ProMaxx, they tell me that they're making a couple of changes to accommodate the 200 raised runner, and they might be doing this in future heads. But nevertheless, you have to do it to almost every head out there that's not 200 raised runner if you're going to convert it. So it ain't that this head's at a disadvantage, it's just following suit like the rest. However, that being said, the neat thing that they done is made it to where once you fill the bottom with epoxy on the ports, hitting that roof and turning it into a raised runner is incredibly easy, way easier than any of the other heads out there on the market. Now, as you can see, what I have done here is I took the Brzezinski plate, the 1206 plate, and I anchored it on both positions, 200 raised and standard. And after serious thought on this, for the purpose of this video and you readers out there, I decided to go with standard flange location, and I'm going to tell you why. The object of this was to get some real world dynamometer numbers on a head that you would walk out here and buy, standard port location, with the real main trick that we're doing would be, you know, the tubes and changing the bowls, a few port shape differences. Once you go to a 200 raised runner, you get into modification of the manifold, thick and thin gaskets, getting them to line up. So I said, for the average person or somebody that was going to take a set of these and go in there and port them and straighten them out to use them in standard locations, that's what this video is about. The next video that I'm going to do on the ProMaxx will be a 200 raised runner. I've already got a gentleman that is interested in doing this for the 200 raised runner series, so we'll be seeing that in the months to come. So anyway, let me show you some of the things I have found. This is the 200 raised runner where I put the Brzezinski plate. Now, although you can't see it, here's the line right here. You're going to have a little gully. Now, notice where the line is right here. Well, it's almost like they knew what you was going to do, because this is a hook or a ledge, a bevel ledge at about, I'd say around 30 degrees, that once you go back about an inch, it's flat. So all you've got to do, which I'm going to show you, is make your trenches here and here, and it levels it within an inch. So, you know, then you can do your math on how you're going to stage the rise of the floor to the top. And they made this incredibly easy. I wish somehow I could get a shot to show you what I'm talking about. Look where my finger's at right there. That's about an inch in. As soon as it's an inch in, it's perfectly level. So there's like this divot going on where it comes, here's the roof of the port, then it comes down, and there's your mark. So all you got to do is cut a couple of trenches, and bam, it's 200 raised runner right on the top. Pretty cool. Let's lay a gasket on there. Let's take a 1206, if you will, and let's put on it so I can show you this. Now, if we go to the gasket position that I've scribed, okay, that's what she's going to look like. Now, as you can see, there's a good trench here that would have to be filled with epoxy. You'd actually fill it up and then do your trimming, and that's going to take a lot of that hump out of the floor and straighten the shape. Remember, on all my videos, the one thing I keep saying to you, air does not like change. Okay, number one rule. You've heard me say it 1,000 times. Now look right there, that's in the standard location. So you can see as soon as I start to come up, there's going to be a trench where you have to epoxy it. Well, that's with almost all of them. Okay, so what that does is it takes this floor, instead of having what I call a ski jump, it takes a lot of that ski jump out, meaning that air don't have to make change as much as it comes down from the intake. Because anytime you got change or movement, think of it like this. If you take if you go to a quarter car wash and you take the spray wand and you spray it out in the open, it's all mist. Okay? But if you take that spray wand and you turn it toward the wall and get about a foot or two from it, and that mist sprays straight in to the side of one of the walls of the car wash, what does it do? That mist gathers up and turns to liquid, and you can see the liquid droplets going right down the wall. That's what happens when you make a change or an abrupt turn, because remember that fuel is heavier than air. It ain't how many flow numbers. That's why I'm really funny on flow numbers. I take them with a grain of salt, because flow numbers don't mean nothing if that charge is not atomized. If it's not where it's a mist going in, vapor burns. Liquid does not burn. So shape is absolutely the key element on this stuff. Airflow numbers, it is a part of it, but it just isn't important. I'd rather have a head that flowed 280 CFM that had a 90% homogenized mixture than have a 310 CFM or 320 CFM head that had a 75 to 80% homogenized mixture. That 280 head with the better mixture is going to make more horsepower. Yet, if you put it on the bench, it's going to show more numbers. That's how come I tell people when they call me, I'm trying to pass this to y'all, because all it is a big giant rip-off game designed by the big companies such as Dart, Brodex, all the rest of them, so they can have a measuring stick to blame my head flows more by my head. I just cannot tell you how true that is. And hopefully one day soon we're going to be able to prove a lot of this with an engine dyno. So, all right. Anyway, that's our 200 head. Now, if we go over here, here's the one we're going to be doing. Okay, we take the 1206, we lay on there. You can see that where the lines are scribed, that right there is closed in. Now, I guess on a negative note, if you want to call it that, I like my heads to be a little bit to the inside. I don't like the gasket to where, you know, it lines up almost perfectly. I like to be the one that cuts at. I will talk to them, you know, I mean, it's pretty much right there. It really ain't bad to say. I'm just a stickler. I like to square my own ports, and I mean, really, you really don't have to port match this. I'm telling you, you can just about, they got it so close. That's what they were after. They wanted a head that you could take out of the box without having to put a CNC machine to it, and this is about the closest that I've ever seen. So I guess hats off to you for the guy that's buying a set of these and not going to do anything to them. It's just a preference on my part. I like a little bit of meat on the inside so I can cut my own shape to it. And again, once you get the gaskets, what I do is I take and trim the black into the blue right here, so that it gives it, in other words, I'll scribe the line the way it is now, then I'll take the 1206 gasket, there's a bunch of black overhang on the gasket past the blue, and I'll trim it all the way to the blue silicone once the scribing's done. That way I don't have no gasket overhang in the port. So that being said, I'm going to hardly touch any of this entrance area right here, just a little bit right there on the bottom, maybe a little bit where I scribed on the edges. What I'm going to focus on right now is we're going to slice through and get the tube, because that is the main thing on this head that has to be done. Alright, so anyway, I'm going to redock on the other head, scribe the line, and we're going to begin the trenching process. Okay, I've set my snaps to a predetermined measurement that I'm going to put in here. One thing I don't discuss a lot of is my math, and I have a reason for that later on, which you'll discover. But I've set it to a measurement. Some of them are worse than the others, and it's like this on all small block heads. Usually the end runner is going to be a touch bigger than the ones on the side. It's a casting process. There appears to be enough meat. I measured it to pull that up. I am very conservative here, because if you bust through, then the only way to do that is to put epoxy on both sides, and you have to take the head and go back and forth on the block with the push rod till it just barely clears it and blend it, and we don't want to get into that if we don't have to, although it's happened before. So as you can see, I'm just doing a little bit of touch-up work right here. I'm going to go ahead and set them, and then I'm going to go in here for the kill on the trench where the tubes are. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's begin the process on it. Keep in mind, we're not moving much material here. The game here is consistency. We want to get all these the same width so that we're on the same page. Some of them will have to be cut more than the others. Okay, as you remember, see, I can almost get through right here. Look at that. Till it starts to come down, and right here is a total block. So here I'm going to put a deeper cut.